So friends, like place of supply under GST, which is very relevant because place of supply defines if GST is applicable in form of IGST or CGST or SGST is applicable, because based upon that the revenue to the respective government will go. It is more important for any state that they should get their genuine revenue under the transaction. Similarly friends, time of supply is equally important for business transactions from GST point of view. How these are? Let's see. Time of supplies means what? If we read the law or otherwise, the liability to pay tax on supply of goods or services arises as per the time of supply of goods or services. So when goods are supplied, when service is provided, accordingly tax will be paid to the government. So point of taxation is the time, and time you tell you when tax to be paid. Let's take example. If there is a taxable supply and it is supplied on 24th of December 2021, so this supply is made during December 21. So this date is the time of supply of tax. When invoice is raised and goods have been supplied, that particular date is the time of supply. So accordingly tax will be paid as per the provisions of GST. How to determine time in case of goods? Because supplies has their own, supply of goods or supply of services both have their different criteria, different characters. So in case of good it says the date of issue of invoice by a supplier or 30th day from the date of supply. I told you the goods cannot move without a document, and document is either delivery challan or an invoice along with e-way bill if it is applicable. So date of issue of invoice itself is the evidence that supply is made, because when invoice is issued it means goods has also been supplied. But if it is not there, if invoice is not raised, then when actual goods are supplied, within 30 days from the date of that supply, invoice should be raised, and that is the point of taxation. Or date on which supplier receives the payment means whenever a supplier sending goods, supplying goods, he will raise invoice and send goods along the invoice, or there is a possibility when he receives the payment in his books of accounts. So if he has supplied the goods or he has received the money first, whichever is earlier, with the point of taxation. Based on these two dates, the tax will be liable to be paid. If there is a case of reverse charge mechanism, there are the transactions, I told you that there are transactions which are covered under reverse charge mechanism, where recipient has to pay tax. Then what is the point of taxation? What is the point of time of supply? What is time of supply in such cases? Law says date of receipt of goods. We are talking about transactions which are covered under reverse charge mechanism in case of goods. So date of receipt of goods means when you receive the goods. If the goods are under reverse charge mechanism, the date on which goods have been received by the recipient, that date, or payment is made, or if payment is made by the recipient to the supplier, or in any case 30th day from the issue of invoice, or if invoice is raised from the 30th day of this invoice and whichever is earlier. So any date which is earlier to these three dates will fix up the time of supply for the payment of tax. Sometimes companies issues gift vouchers to their customer, and these gift vouchers are free to the customer if they buy something over and above a particular limit. But friends, in GST, nothing is free. If gift voucher is given, it means you have paid something for these vouchers. Buy one, get one. These type of things are there in the market, but GST says nothing is free. Buy, get one. Free means whenever you are buying one first item, second is also charged along with. So if any voucher is given on certain purchase to the customer, that voucher is also subject to GST because it has some value, it has some price, and you have paid for that. Nothing is free, as I told you. So in that situation, if the supplies goods are identifiable at the time of issue of voucher, it happens sometimes when voucher is given to you, the person who is giving you the voucher will tell you, or it will be on the face of the voucher, that this voucher can be redeemed against purchase of this particular item. So means voucher is very specified for a particular transaction, for particular goods or particular service. It is not an open voucher, means you go into the market and buy anything. It is not like that. It is for particular item. So at the time of issue of voucher, supply is clear that this goods can be purchased against redemption of this voucher. If that is the case, then it says if the supply is identifiable at the time of issue of this gift voucher, then the date of issue of the voucher is the point of taxation, is the point of supply. So when the voucher is issued and it is clear from the voucher that against this voucher you can purchase trouser, against this voucher you can purchase a shirt, against this voucher you can buy a mobile phone. In that case, date of issue of voucher is the point of taxation and tax will be paid accordingly by the supplier, by the person who has given this voucher to you, to the consumer. And otherwise, if this is not clear and voucher is open, you go in the market and buy whatever you want, or voucher is redeemable at many outlets and it is up to you to redeem this voucher and get the things you required, then date on which voucher is redeemed. I mentioned earlier also that there are so many business transactions nowadays. Business has complex strategies nowadays to sell their products. So accordingly, GST has mapped many business transactions for levy of GST. So free gift voucher is not a free, that is one thing. You have paid something for this voucher and whatever you are going to purchase from redemption of this voucher is also subject to GST in normal course of action. So point of taxation means when the transaction is noticed, registered in record and accordingly tax will be paid. If any transactions happened in the month of April, from 1st April to 30th of April, in these 30 days anything is purchased or sold, its tax has to be paid according to April. Time is April. And GST has given the rule and regulation how this tax will be paid further. What other methods are available if the given situations are not clear, how we will determine the time of supply. So law says in the business or in the transactions, or if the supplier filing periodical returns, generally in business and in GST we file monthly returns. We have system of monthly returns. GSTR 1 is the first return which shows us outward supplies that we have made during particular month, and based upon this GSTR 1 our turnover is decided, rate of tax is already decided, and we calculate liability of tax. And in GST 3B we pay taxes. So as I mentioned that in month of April, whatever goods we have sold, we will determine our tax liability. We will declare our total invoices, our total sale of April in April's GST year 1, which is supposed to be filed with the GST portal by 11th of May. Means for monthly returns, I have 11 days to file my GST year 1 on GST portal. So in GST year 1, I will give detail of all my sales, all my invoices, party wise, region wise, state wise, HSN code wise to GST portal, so that accordingly tax can be shifted to respective states. Means when I am making sale, I will be having sale interstate or having sale intrastate. So system will act accordingly, and we will also determine our tax liability, how much is CGS to be paid, how much SGST to be paid, and how much IGST to be paid. So in 3B we declare total tax liability and will pay accordingly. So for GST year 1 we have 11 days. By 11th of next month we have to file our GST year 1 to fix our tax liability for April, and by 20th of next month we have to pay our tax based upon GST year 1 we have filed. So 3B is the return where I pay tax actually. So where we are having this option and it is not possible for us to file or determine the point of taxation of supply or time of supply, then it says where periodical returns are filed, the date of that return is the point of taxation or time of taxation. So whatever I have done in April, I am supposed to pay tax by 20th of May, or date on which tax is paid. Or if I have paid tax in before 20th or before filing of return, that means 20th is the date of filing a return. If I paid tax on 15th by filing GST 3B, that date, whichever is earlier, that is the point of time for payment of taxes. That is the point of supply. If any additional amount by way of interest, late fee or penalty for delay payment is received from customer by a supplier, the time of supply for such cases shall be the date on which supplier receives such additional amount. So if you have supplied goods in month of April for rupees 10,000 plus GST 18%, and as per the terms of the purchase order, this payment is supposed to be released by your consumer, by your buyer within 15 days from the date of invoice, but he didn't and actually paid this amount after 30 days. So point of taxation or time of supply is remain the date of invoice, as we have already decided. Already we have seen in previous slides. And additional amount what I have received in form of late payment over interest, for that particular amount, which is also part of my value, my transaction value, is liable to be taxed under GST, and the same rate at which I have charged, the rate I have imposed or levied on my goods on the date when I received this amount. So accordingly I will pay tax on this amount, which interest I have received for delay in the payment of my invoices. Then friends, time of supply in case of services. As we have varied style of services in India and also in GST, and business complexity is there, we all know that. So point of supply is also a bit complicated, so it needs to be understood properly. So it says earliest of the following dates shall be the point of supply, so that tax can be paid accordingly. And we have seen that for issue of invoices under services, time period is varying from 30 to 45 days. So if there is a delay in filing or paying tax by 30 or 45 days, it's a huge loss to the government, because we are delaying payment of taxes. Even then, law says the earliest date of the following shall be the point of supply, and accordingly tax should be paid. And it says date of issue of invoice. If you have given some service to any person and you have raised the invoice for that, the date of that invoice or date of payment received, whichever is earlier from these two. Further, there is a or. Date of provision of service made, when you have recorded that you have made the service to the person, though you have not raised the invoice, you have not received the payment, but you have declared in your books of accounts, in your record, that service is over now. It is made, completed. In your books of accounts, you have created that record, or the date of payment received, date of issue of invoice, provision made in the books of accounts, or payment received in the accounts. Further, or, once again there is a or. Date on which recipient shows receipt of service in his books of accounts. Here supplier has made a provision in his books of accounts. Here recipient has made a provision in his books of account that he has received the services, though he has not received the invoice. So out of these two invoices, two dates, out of these two dates or out of this date, whichever is earlier, that is a point of supply or point of taxation for that particular service in case of services. So any additional amount will be treated as the same way as we saw in the case of goods. Earlier we see goods under reverse charge mechanism, where goods are subject to reverse charge mechanism, how point of taxation will be decided, how point of supply will be decided. Now in case of services, I shown you the list of services like advocate service, director services, GTA services, which are under reverse charge mechanism. How point of supply will be decided so that tax can be paid accordingly in that particular month. So it says earliest of the following date. Again, earliest of the following dates, and these dates are date of payment made, means when payment is made for this particular service, or debited to the bank of the recipient, means when payment is released to the bank of the by the recipient. 60 days from the date of invoice. So it has a provision up to 60 days, or the payment made under reverse charge mechanism, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier. That is the point of taxation for reverse charge. Normally what happens, if I receive any service which is subject to reverse charge, I pay tax in the same month without waiting for bill and all, because in reverse charge mechanism I have to raise bill to my own and has to pay tax and has to claim ITC. And under reverse charge mechanism, tax is to be paid in cash only. If there is a voucher issued for services with some purchases or otherwise, then how point of supply will be decided for a voucher given for a services? Again, earliest of the following. Date of issue of voucher, if supply is identifiable at the time of voucher, as I told you in the case of goods, or date of the redemption of the voucher, whichever is earlier. Here supply is identifiable, so date of issue of voucher is point of supply, you have to pay tax. But if it is not there, then when voucher is redeemed by the consumer, point of taxation will be there and point of supply of services are there, and you are supposed to pay tax accordingly. There are some debatable issues in these transactions, but still these are going on. If there is any other method, yes, same way as we did in case of goods, periodical returns, accordingly tax will be paid in case of services also. So friends, point of taxation is important because if your point of taxation you are calculating wrongly, you are delaying payment of tax, definitely it will be subject to interest at the rate of 18%. So place of supply and time of supply, these two are very important from GST point of view, because based on these 2 points, government will ask you to pay taxes. If you are not adhering to the provisions of time of supply and place of supply, you will be charged with the fine, penalty and interest also. So these sections are very important from all business transactions under GST. So while dealing with the business transactions, when you are as an employee of the company or as a consultant to the company, study each and every transaction of the business, check the documents thoroughly, check the purchase order thoroughly, because in continuous supply, purchase order is the main document which will determine your point of taxation and place of supply. Any delay in payment of tax is subject to GST. So the more you will deal with the transactions of the business, understand the transactions, online transactions, e-commerce transactions, the more comfortable you will be with the business, with the GST provisions. With these words, thanks a lot. Thank you very much.